Oh, yeah. They work, yeah.
Hey everyone watching online, we're about to get started in the next 5 minutes or so, but if you could let me know if you can't hear me through the mic, either by tweeting to Ada Academy. Yeah, by doing that, that would be great. Thank you. Hi.
Hi.
Are you going to be here? Okay, awesome. We're not going to like do like that. I don't think that if the questions come up, we have Sorry, there's not more seating.
Oh, yeah, that's fine.
Okay, awesome.
Don't fill up. No, I'm so over Seattle. Sure.
Sometimes it snows.
It snowed once this year.
Oh, really? I love it when we get like the epic snowstorms that just shut down the city. It's like,
What's it like epic by Seattle State?
I'm from Vermont, so, but we get the ones that like where the buses are like sliding down the street.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and like nobody has to go to work. That's what Except there was a scary one like 4 years ago when the bus like slid down. It was going down near Denny and then slid down and like hit the guardrail to, like broke through the guardrail and like was hanging over I-5. Yeah.
Oh, that'd be fun.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I wish I could see myself.
Yeah.
Do you want me to cover it up?
Maybe you should just you can like turn the screen brightness down.
Or I could just put it on like a video of puppies or something that's playing while it's still filming.
Oh yeah, you have the little bug.
Little bug. Okay. Hi everyone. Welcome to Ada. We're going to get started in just a couple of seconds. I just want to make sure that the sound is working on the webcast. So for people that aren't here, making sure they can hear it. So does that work?
Can you hear me?
So I just asked a list. So just a couple housekeeping things. Bathroom for women is down the hall, straight down the hall on the right. For men, just, that way and to the left. Okay, great. So we've got sound. Okay, cool. So we will get started. So the way we're going to do this is, first of all, I'll introduce myself. I'm Karen Hambro. I'm the program manager of Ada. And I'll get behind there so that people on the video can see. So we have a lovely group of panelists here, and I'm just going to be asking them some questions so that they can provide you more information about the program. And then after, we're going to open it up, and you guys can ask questions, and then people that are watching the webcast and tweeting can ask their questions. So yeah, we'll go ahead and get started then. So everyone on the panel, hello. I know this is really weird because I'm standing behind you, but will you please introduce yourselves, where you work, and how you're involved with data?
Hi, I'm Dave. Been involved with Ada since the beginning. It was the inception meeting. And I am a partner in a small startup called Untitled.
Hi, I'm Kayla. I'm a current student at Ada.
I'm Lucas. I've been the lead instructor for the past two cohorts.
I'm Christina. I'm a graduate of the first cohort and currently working at
I'm John. I work for EMC Isilon, which has been a sponsoring company for Ada for the first two cohorts, and I've also been a teaching instructor, teaching assistant for the last cohort.
Thanks. Okay, so for Christina and Kayla, our two students and graduates, what caught your interest about the Ada program and why did you apply?
Sure. Let's see. I think I was already kind of looking for a program. I knew that I had an interest and wanted to learn. And in doing so, I looked at some other programs and then got word of Ada and it's like, yep, that's it. That's where I need to be. I like the fact that it was a year long, that it was female centric, and that it was split with 6 months in class and 6 months in internship. So I thought that seemed like a really complete experience.
For me, I was already trying to learn on my own. I was really frustrated with my job, so I quit and decided that I would teach myself. That wasn't going so well, and so I started looking into programs, and I heard about Ada. I listened to the info session and determined it was probably the best thing for me since it was all women. And in Seattle, and the internship part really sold me.
Thank you. And for both of you again, how did you prepare for the Ada program?
So I found out a month in advance, and I remember picking my moving date. I was living in the Bay Area, so I decided to read as many books as I could and just be calm and comfortable and kind of understanding it was going to be rough for the next year. So I just wanted to calm down.
To be honest, I didn't have time to prepare. I think I moved from the East Coast, Miami, to Seattle in about a 2-week time frame. So I just came here and was like, all right, let's go. Teach us something.
Awesome. Okay, so for you two again, what is it like to be an Ada student, and what are the greatest challenges?
I think one of the things is as part of the Ada network is I think a really strong network. So it's really good to plug into that, and I think we have access to so many great people in the industry that I think even the people that create our curriculum are the people that you're going to see at meetups and things like that. So to kind of connect with people actually that you could ask questions to and build relationships with was really great. But I think one of the hardest challenges, or the biggest, was probably just having faith that I eventually get it, because sometimes it feels like you're never going to get it. So resilience and grit are definitely things that are required to make it through this program.
So I'm really proud to be an Ada student. Extremely proud. I still think of the day I was accepted. I think going to meetups with my Ada crew is beneficial. It gets rid of the imposter syndrome. I was just signing up for a hackathon, and one of the Ada girls was like, "No, you have to sign up as a developer now." And I was like, "Whoa, I'm a real developer. That's cool." And then also, I think the biggest challenge would be emotions. Not just emotions from learning the material, but also the emotions of am I getting this? Some days I feel like a real developer, and then the other days I'm like, oh my god, I'm never gonna make it. So it's just a balancing act of all these emotions, and then dealing with today I'm really frustrated into my code, but then also balancing I'm in a room with 24 other angels and have to be nice to them and stuff, and really taking that in.
Speaking of emotions, Lucas created an app that you can sign up to get texts to kind of validate yourself, and I just got one that says, "Don't undervalue yourself, celebrate your wins." So
That's real. That's true. And I think even to add to what she says, I think I still kind of go through that back and forth even now. I think that's, and what I'm discovering too, even working with some of the people on my team, nobody really has all of the answers. And I think that's one of the things about, like, there's infinite things to learn. Like, as soon as you think you know something, there's another thing to learn. So I guess that's part of the challenge. So get comfortable and used to that part.
I think with Ada though, we also get like the previous cohort's help, or our TAs and our teachers who like really believe in us all the time. So even if you don't believe in yourself today, someone else believes in you. So that's a whole lot better.
okay, great. Moving on to Bookus. Could you give us a rundown of the Ada curriculum and what's a typical day like in the classroom?
Sure. So the Ada curriculum is primarily focused around building web applications. That's the main idea. We use Ruby as a programming language. We will kind of, we pick up lots of things and do lots of things. Primarily Ruby, a little bit of JavaScript, and then HTML, CSS, anything that has to do with the web page, basically. So the beginning of the class is primarily Ruby, and it's primarily small exercises and lectures, and just kind of going through that. I think about week 5 we get into web tools. We start learning HTML, CSS, and kind of more JavaScript. And then in the following weeks we get into web frameworks, Sinatra and Rails. And once we get into Rails there, that's a web framework for the Ruby language. Once we get into that, it's pretty much Rails from there on out, and just like everything related to building a website and a web application. So there's a huge variety of tools and technologies that we'll learn there. Towards the end of the program, we dive into a JavaScript framework. So those are kind of like new and cool. This year we did Angular. Last year we did Ember. So who knows what it'll be for next year. And then the classroom experience ends with a month-long capstone project. It's kind of self-guided. That's what the current cohort is going through right now. So that's a general rundown of the curriculum. Typical day in the classroom. Generally, most mornings we have a lecture, sort of 2 to 3 hours. At the beginning, probably the first 6 weeks of class is pretty much every day, maybe 3 hours a day, sometimes longer. Pretty grueling. Once we get a little further into the tools and can kind of work with some things, we really start doing projects. So we'll still have lectures, maybe 2 to 3 hours a day, maybe 2 to 3 days a week. And a lot of the time it's just projects. So we provide projects for students to do. We have technical requirements and presentation requirements and a bunch of other things. And so generally, at least in the afternoons from, say, 1 to 5, students spend their time just working on those. And then additionally, maybe once a week, we'll have a guest instructor or someone coming in with career advice or something like that, maybe a field trip to one of the sponsoring companies for an afternoon or something like that. And that's sort of the typical day.
Great, thank you. Dave and John, how do volunteers help in the classroom?
I'll start.
And we're getting a little bit of people on Twitter saying if we could speak a little louder, that would be great.
Okay. I mean, as a teaching assistant, we're basically there to kind of add support as needed. A lot of what Ada is about is sort of bootstrapping yourself to learn new technologies and new concepts, by yourself, because there's no way, in the 6-month or now 7-month classroom portion, you're going to be able to teach you all the specific technologies you'll need to know in your career. So the biggest part of helping is, when a student, finds that they're stuck and they want, just a little bit of additional, hinting or some kind of strategy for how to get unstuck, we just provide that in a way that facilitates self-learning as much as possible. So usually it's just, trying to say, oh, well, if I had this problem, here's how I would start thinking about it, and just going through with the student together.
Yeah, and to add to that, there's also some amount of kind of contextualization of in these capstone projects this week. I've been helping people a lot with kind of web browsers, which are fun things. I'll find out soon if you don't already know. And a lot of that is just kind of applying things that, you know, maybe a student already knows in Ruby to a different language, like JavaScript. And that's something that I think having a lot of different people helping in the classroom makes that happen.
Great. Another question for the two of you. You've seen the 80s transform. Oh, so the ADA students are called 80s. You've seen the 80s transform from total beginners firsthand. What's it been like working with the students as they've grown as developers?
You want to go this one?
Sure. It's been awesome. And amazing, surprising. It's, how to say it? When ADA started, a lot of people were really skeptical that in 6 months of classroom time and 6 more months of internship that people could become professional developers. You know, when compared with like 4 years of CS or whatever, all my expectations around that have been completely exceeded.
For me, it's kind of been shocking. Like, there's never like, you know, there's no point in the classroom portion where like, you know, the 80s go home one day as, you know, not developers and they show up the next day as developers. I mean, everyone comes into this program, you know, very intelligent, motivated, capable people. And I mean, knowing how many applicants there are and how few spaces there are, like there's just an amazing amount of talent. And the transition is just so seamless for like, you know, smart people who don't yet know a particular thing show up and like, you know, a couple months later, there are smart people who know a bunch more things.
Thank you. So Dave, as a steering committee member, and John, as a representative of a repeat sponsoring company, you've both been longtime proponents of the ADA program. What makes ADA so special?
As someone who's really concerned about the state of diversity and especially gender diversity within the tech industry, I think one thing that makes ADA so special is it sort of gets rid of the excuse that lack of diversity is a pipeline problem. Because it's easy to, you know, donate to STEM programs and encourage more people to major in computer science, but that's not going to like get us where we need to be nearly fast enough. Adding more women into the, you know, the tech hiring pool in only a year is an amazing boost in that fight, and that I think is really remarkable.
Okay, great. Kayla, this one is for you. Where will you be interning, and what are you looking forward to in the internship?
So I'm interning at Expedia, which was my #1 choice, and I'm sure they ranked me really highly as well since I got them. Everyone knew I was really excited. But anyways, I'm really happy that I got them just because we got to do like mentorship rounds with the companies, and everyone I met from Expedia kept being the same personality I knew like I wanted to work with. And if I was struggling and having a bad day, these are like the people I'd want to be around, and that was something really important to me. As well, they like use another language completely, and I figured I learned this language in X amount of months, so I can learn the language.
I'm just going to add one thing, and I'm just going to stand here so people can see. So one thing we do throughout, while they're in the classroom portion, is we have them out meeting the representatives from the sponsoring companies and pairing with them and getting that mentorship going so that students become more familiar with who the sponsoring companies are, what sort of projects they would be working on if they did intern there and all of that. So it's not just kind of like, oh, it's time for my internship, where should I go? It's, you know, there's been a lot of research and a lot of, you know, interactions that students have had with the companies and the companies have had with the students. And we do that to make the best fit possible to lead to the best outcomes. Okay, great. Christina, this one is for you, and this is a multiple-part question. As one of the 15 graduates of Ada, what advice do you have to help aspiring developers transition to a career in the tech industry?
I think first learn how you learn how to learn, because that'll be a continuous process. I think and from beginning even to once you have a job as a developer, so definitely learn what works for you in the process of learning. And what was some of the other questions? That was kind of loaded.
No, that was great. How can aspiring developers best set themselves up for success?
Initiative. I think that's one of the things that's kind of stood out and been, I think, really great for me. Just either reaching out to people or knowing ways that you're an asset, and even whether it's like coding or whether it's communication skills or whether it's working with a team, like really highlighting those and kind of combining them. So I think I'm a great developer, I'm a good coder, I'm improving, but like I think I contribute to the whole process of developing software. And so for that reason, I feel like that helps me figure out.
Okay, and last question. So you were an intern at Apex Learning right across the street, and you are now an employee at Apex Learning right across the street. How was your transition from intern to full-time employee?
I think at Apex it was pretty interesting in that I don't think I was ever really treated as an intern. I think I was given a lot of responsibility and initiative in the beginning, and so that just kind of remained consistent as I was getting full time. So, and I think that is another thing that speaks to just initiative and just kind of learning.
Fantastic. Okay, last question. This is for everyone. Our first 2 cohorts have been very successful. What are your hopes for future cohorts of Ada? I didn't give you guys this one in advance.
I'll talk first, sure. So my hope for future cohorts is just to make the classroom really seamless. And I mean, it's a really hard program. The classroom portion, the internship, they're both really hard. We have more control over the classroom experience, and I really hope that can become a little more seamless and really try and work through a lot of the kinks that exist in this kind of scenario where you have 24 people all trying really hard at one thing, and there's just a lot of dynamics and a lot of things that can that are really hard. So I guess that's my hope, is that in the future we can have people coming through, having a smooth experience, and even having multiple processes going through multiple classrooms. I don't know if that's a possibility, but where we can kind of increase the flow and smoothness of the classroom experience.
I hope in the future that the graduates of Ada become involved with coming back to participate in. You saying louder? I hope that in the future, the graduates of Ada, continue to be part of the family and come back and contribute to all aspects of the program, from classroom through internship, mentorship, all of those things.
For me, I think it's just definitely diversity. Because so we had 15 women to enter the workforce as developers in my cohort. The next cohort, 4. So I just hope that it continues to grow and that at some point diversity is not even a conversation, but that's diverse.
I guess the thing that I hope most for Ada is for it to be able to continue to expand and maintain the incredibly high level of quality that it has now. I mean, I know that in the last application round there were certainly more than 24 people who were highly qualified and would be successful in the program, and I want there to be as many spaces in a program like this for everybody who's interested and qualified and wants to do it. And I want to see Ada become just an equally respected source of education for entering this workforce as any other program.
For me, I hope we keep growing constantly. I want this to be an every city thing. I also hope for a really awesome alumni coming out, and then definitely more people to get involved, more TAs, more companies, more instructors.
Great. Okay, and there's a question on Twitter that I'm going to ask all of you that kind of pertains to this. So given the time commitment and financial implications on students of no income, what makes Ada a better choice than other boot camps?
I think I think if I were to go to another boot camp, first off, the other boot camps you pay, so there's that. I don't know if I would have been able to learn all that I was able to learn in 2 months or the 12 weeks that other boot camps learn. I don't even necessarily know that I look at Ada as a boot camp because it's a little bit more comprehensive than that. So there's definitely that trade-off. But the financial situation is rough, so I'll be honest about that.
I definitely interviewed at other boot camps. Being from Bay Area, there's so many. And I always thought I was a product, and I was just like a representation of their business if they were to accept me. But with Ada, I honestly felt like everyone cared about me and my success.
Anybody else want to comment on that, or should we open it up to?
I'm going to agree with Christina that I don't think of Ada in the same realm as most boot camps. Just the length of time, the internship, and just participation in sponsoring companies being such a big part of it, I think, is a lot different from other boot camps, which are also good and great for the people to get in. So I don't think it's a matter of like, what's better or worse. These are two different approaches that can coexist.
Great. Okay, so why don't we open it up to you all? So I'll probably do like a question from here, a question from Twitter, just to make it fair for the people that are watching online. So does anybody have a question they want to start us off with? Yes.
So I know you guys can do a stipend while you're in the program. Can you explain what it is?
Yes, so the structure for the upcoming cohort will be, and I'll stand here so people can see. So during the classroom portion, there will be a revolving loan fund that will be a low interest loan that people will have access to. And then once the internships start, we will offer what's basically equivalent to minimum wage to cover the time that you're in. Yes.
So, from what I understand from the description of the program, you have 6 months of classroom work and 7 months of classroom work and 1 month of internship. Is that because of the captioning project, or what has changed in the curriculum?
I'll take that one. Nothing's changed in the curriculum. It was something that we probably identified and talked about during cohort 1, that just the classroom experience. Well, the classroom experience could be years long. It's like it'd never be too long. Like if I could just like sit somewhere and just like Google stuff all day, I would. If somebody would pay me to do that, which actually this job is pretty close to that. So the classroom always could be longer, and so it's something that students have said, it's something that TAs have said, and it's something that I've thought as well. Like, if we can make this longer, let's do it. And then the internship being 6 months long, a typical internship is 3 months long. So that already was kind of on the higher end, and so a 5-month internship, that didn't seem to be any downside to that, whereas 7 months in the classroom can be a huge benefit. So the actual extra month of curriculum is not actually written yet, but it's going to fill itself in pretty easily.
Okay, I'll take, yep.
I have really boring, simple questions actually, so it'll be fast.
And I'm gonna, after you ask, I'm gonna repeat it just so that people watching can hear the question as well. So
I was going to ask, what are the typical hours of instruction? What's the schedule for being in a classroom? What's the other thing? Oh, how many spots are you estimating for cohort 3? You talked about the jump from 1 to 2. Do you guys have a sense of what cohort 3 is?
okay, so the 2 questions are: what is the schedule for instruction? What are the times for lecture in the classroom? And then how many spots will there be for cohort 3?
So lecture within the classroom, 9 to 5, 5 days a week. There's homework, there's extra events, there's lots of extracurricular activities, but 9 to 5 in the classroom every day. Monday through Friday. And then you want to talk about?
Oh yeah, so for cohort 3, we'll be accepting between 20 and 24 students. Okay, here is one question from Twitter. How doable is the program with a part-time job around 20 hours a week with flexible hours?
It's not happening.
Yeah.
No, I feel like anytime that I wasn't in class, I was probably doing some work towards class, whether it was homework or just kind of brushing up and trying to wrap my mind around some of the concepts and things that we were learning. So it would have been extremely difficult to try to fit part-time work into that.
Yeah, project time definitely extends to the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Are you wondering about how many applicants you have for the first and second cohort?
Oh yeah. So the question is, how many applicants were there for the first and second cohort? So for the first cohort, I think we had 107 applicants. For the second cohort, I think 196 completed the application. And currently, we're expecting more than that for the third cohort. Yes. Uh-huh. So the question is about preparing for the program and coding experience and programming experience, and kind of maybe what excludes you and what gives you an advantage. What's the rest of the question? And okay, and what we're looking for in an applicant. So
Yes. So all of this will be assessed sort of on an individual basis during the application process. The rule of thumb that I generally sort of like to go with is like, are you hireable as a software developer now? Then you wouldn't be, eligible for the program, basically. And that's a fuzzy line. Like, what is hireable, what's not? Something like a CS degree would be a big red flag there. Or currently working at a software company in a software position or a related position, but it is kind of a fuzzy line. The purpose of the program is to, it's intended to take people from 0 to 100. So, we certainly are not. We're trying to get people who are beginners or have 0 experience. That being said, a lot of the students have been learning on their own, and maybe it's like now this program will be going on 2+ years. That's possible that people have 2 years of experience who want to be in the program. Maybe it's self-taught, and so it's a fuzzy line. If you've been teaching yourself Python for 2 years, then that doesn't necessarily exclude you because you're very committed, obviously, and that would be a great candidate. So it's going to be sort of assessed on an individual basis, sort of primarily depending on employment.
Cool. I'm going to take a question from Twitter, which is, does ADA have or is building any public sector or nonprofit relationships with people interested in that kind of work? So we are a nonprofit ourselves, but we are also funded by sponsorships. So sponsoring companies are how we, support everything about the program. So if nonprofits or the public sector are interested in sponsoring an intern, they are more than welcome. So yeah, it's really just, we're industry driven, and whoever's interested in sponsoring is kind of, how we stay afloat. Yes.
Do you consider some people to be overqualified? Let's just say some people are from computer science background, I really work in software company. But if somebody is from a tech background but not from computer science, but they are into technology and into engineering and are exposed to certain things related to technology, and if they have a master's or if they have a doctorate, we would consider them to be overqualified.
So the question for people watching online is, are there people we consider to be overqualified?
So I guess it's going to depend on the specific background and the specific technology. Like, certainly not if you have a master's in something technology related, but it has nothing to do with software, and you're not currently employable as a software developer, then no, we wouldn't consider you.
Here's a question from Twitter. How much pair programming will take place?
Good question.
A good amount. right, a good amount.
Yeah.
So if you're not familiar with pair programming, it's a common practice. Some companies do it full time.
Yeah.
Christina knows that. Some companies don't do it at all, but essentially it's two people programming on one computer. Typically a driver and someone in the kind of the back seat. And it's just the methodology. It's just the way to program. Two sets of eyes are better than one. So that's kind of the background to that question. But yeah, Christina and Caleb.
We definitely had one project where we were forced to pair 100%, and that was like our first pair programming experience. So that's why we used the bitter taste at first, and then after that, it just gets so much easier when you get more into the advanced topics. Suddenly, like pair programming becomes really natural and not something you're afraid of.
Generally, like I think the projects, like we spent time doing individual projects, we did pair programming projects, and then we did group projects. So at some point, you're either asking someone for help, even if it's on an individual project, or sometimes you're working on your own, but definitely working with other people.
Great. Okay, I'll take another question from. Was that one from Twitter?
Mm-hmm.
Oh. Okay, one from the audience. Yes. Okay, so the question is, speaking of people that came from a background that's not technology, what is the background of our lovely students and graduates up here?
Okay, so I went to Emory University and I had a finance degree and I worked in financial consulting. Then I switched careers and worked at Macy's.com and begged to be in a tech job, but that never happened.
Before Ada, my previous career was in sports marketing, so I was doing marketing for an Orange Bowl committee. But then I kind of knew I wanted to transition into another career, so I went on 6 months of unemployment.
Okay, a question from Twitter. Regarding the stipend equivalent to minimum wage, will this be the new minimum wage of $50 an hour? Yeah, it'll always reflect what the minimum wage is in the city of Seattle. So as it changes and as it increases, it'll match that. One more question from Twitter. What is the breakdown for type of positions your grads get, i.e. full-time, part-time internship, etc.? All of our graduates had received offers before graduation of some form of software developer engineer.
I think it was overwhelmingly full-time. Unless I'm misremembering, I think there was one contract position and everyone else was full-time. Is that right? Yeah. Two?
But I think one of the, yeah.
Oh, I think one person chose to do, they got a full-time offer, but they chose a different job to do contract. Everyone, and there was another person who did contract, everyone else had.
And I believe the average salary of our graduates, the offers was $75,000. Yes.
What's the retention rate for people that get the job offers? Like, are they still at those companies doing the same job or similar job at least, or have they just given up completely? Like, what's that situation like?
Like, where are they now?
Yeah, essentially.
They're all still, I think everybody's with the position they accepted. So, yeah, I don't think anybody's.
Wait, what's your question? Are they with their companies or are they working
Are
as software
they still in the
developers?
field?
Yes, yeah.
Oh, yeah,
everyone's-
okay.
everyone's working
Oh, yeah.
on stuff.
Sorry, for the people watching online, the question was, where are the graduates now? And have they bailed and said, screw this, or are they still sticking with it? And they're all still sticking with it.
Oh, I had a really thought about what, I don't know if it was like what you did or what advice. I would say, when I just thought of it now, curiosity. I think be curious. I think most developers or most problem solvers, that's a really good trait of a person. They're just curious. That's kind of what led me to development, honestly. I was curious about this, made a website, I was like, oh, this is cool.
Okay, in the green sky, yes.
So thinking about the time commitment for this particular cohort that's coming up, summer is a popular time for people to get married, and some people might in this room, like me, might even be thinking of getting married in the summer. Thinking of that, if you might be busy with a major life event and might need to not be here for a couple of weeks to sort of looking at another session.
So the question is, if you know you have upcoming things such as a wedding or a vacation or having a baby or anything like that, does that fit with the program? So with the program, we allow for 5 kind of absences, personal days, sick days, things like that. I mean, we try and be flexible, and we understand that people have lives and things happen, but if you know in advance that you're gonna just be gone for like a week or more, we might encourage you to apply for a different cohort just because so much happens every single day that you kind of need to be here for. But again, I mean, we understand that people live. So I think, you know, just communicating with us about what you have coming up, and then we can just kind of evaluate that. Because one thing Bookus did this cohort was he would record the lectures so that for people that did need to travel or were going to a conference or something, they could actually watch it on their own and still get the material and not fall behind. Because that's basically what it's about. We're not like, no, you have to be here all the time, but it's like we don't want you to lose the material and then fall behind. Oh, you haven't had a chance yet, yes?
What's the instructor to
So the question is, what is the instructor to student ratio? Some days it was 1 to 24, but you know, we have the wonderful TAs and we have other part-time instructors. We're kind of changing the structure a little bit, so we'll, you know, the ratio will get better. We'll have more instructors per student. Oh yeah.
And if I could just like chime in as a TA, like there was never like a queue like of students who are waiting to talk to me. Like it's not very far into the program at all that ADs are mostly teaching themselves and each other. Like I enjoyed when I got to talk and do a lot of actual helping with people, and a lot of days was like, I guess I'll work on my own project.
There are times where it's kind of like slammed. Maybe there's one particular. I actually can't even. I don't know what the pattern is. I have no clue. But some days it's like every student has a question all at the same time, and that's a difficult time. You know, typically we have every afternoon we have 2 to 3 TAs in. You know, it kind of varies based on everyone's schedule. We have tons of volunteers, which is awesome. That's like the most. This program couldn't happen without volunteers. But there's typically 2 to 3 TAs in the back of the class, just kind of taking questions, and then 1 to 2 instructors in the classroom at any given time. So during project time, I mean, we would hope to have 4 people available. So depending on the classroom size, maybe 1 to 5. But yeah, and that's something that can always do better.
And we are looking for instructors right now. So if you know any fantastic candidates, please do encourage them.
And an instructor? I don't know. Yeah, we can get to that at the time, but essentially software developers.
Yeah. But we'll talk about that offline. Okay, question from Twitter. Can you please describe how sponsoring companies / internship hosts have helped interns get up to speed and support them? So you know this very well. You know this very well.
support them? While in the program?
During the internship.
I want to say, well, this is kind of after I was hired, but APEX is paying for me to take a class and continue education, so that's definitely a way to get supported. Okay, so this is, I guess, after I was hired, but the company that I'm working for, they paid for me to take a course at UW and continuous education, so that's one form of continuing support.
At Iceland, I know we've taken the ADA program really seriously. We've seen it as an opportunity to really make a difference to diversity in the entire industry. Sort of just within our own company, though, we've made sure to identify managers who are passionate about that particular goal and select individual mentors who work directly with students throughout their internship, who have actually like set aside a significant portion of their work time that's dedicated to working with the student. It's not just like an extra lackey who does some work. Like, you know, part of what every mentor employee's, you know, reportable, accountable responsibilities is making sure that that intern succeeds.
One other thing I'm going to add to that, we also do, you know, I do a lot of work with the companies, just preparing them for, you know, the amount of work it is to have an intern, because it's a lot of responsibility on them too. The internship is still very much part of the student's education while they're in the program. So, you know, having the mentors that are assigned, having, you know, the weekly or biweekly one-on-ones, having goals, having expectations. You know, we come in and we do an assessment too with the companies, a 90-day review. So the student reviews the company reviews the student, and then we take those lessons learned and apply them, and, you know, make sure that everybody's getting the most out of the internship. So yeah, we put an expectation on the companies as well of what is expected of them as, you know, hosting. Yes, back there.
I would send an email to you know, to us, or during the communication with us.
Oh wait, sorry. For the people watching, it says on the application, if you, because we require laptops that can run, what's the latest? Yosemite. And so if you can't afford a laptop, we said we offer support, but there's nowhere to actually state that on the application. So just send us a follow-up email if you go on the website and, you know, send it to contact. But yeah, just do that.
You'll have plenty of communication with us. You know,
Yeah.
if you during the application process, there's going to be no shortage of communication. You know, sort of given you're interviewing and getting to those stages, there'll be plenty of opportunity for that.
Yeah. So yeah, when we get there, we'll definitely address that. Yes.
After some of the application points there, when do you find out like what's writing or what's after that?
Yeah. So shoot, I should have printed this out to have it right in front of me. I'll try and remember it, and if I misspeak, I will send out corrected information. So we will be contacting people for interviews the first week of March. So interviews will be happening probably March 10th through 20th. These are very rough dates. My brain, it's somewhere in there. It's that, you know, kind of 2-week period. And then we will make the selection and the announcements by the end of March. So everybody will know by the end of March.
And how many interviews do you go through? One interview? Or is it a multiple interview?
It'll be 2 interviews, but at the same time, the same day.
Okay.
You'll be invited in for 1 interview, and you'll do a sort of a technical interview, which that kind of will change every cohort. The last cohort, it's been like a pair programming exercise, which is really like working through an LSAT problem. It's just like working through a logic problem with an instructor. And then the other is a typical sort of panel interview.
Okay, I have a really interesting question from Twitter. Does really, really old programming experience, like 2003 era or prior, disqualify someone if you haven't worked in software?
That's going to be an individual basis type thing. It really, I think a lot of it comes down to employment, and, you know, I would say that having a lot of those backgrounds may sort of theory towards the ineligible, but it's going to be individual.
Yeah, I think if from 2003 your experience is Cold Fusion, you're probably more eligible, and if it's C++, probably less so.
Okay, one more from Twitter. Do you accept students that don't have a college degree? And the answer is yes. There's no educational requirement to be able to be accepted into the program.
So one hilarious thing that you'll see pretty often is how little education a lot of software developers actually have. Yeah, I mean, I won't speak for everyone, but I don't have a college degree. I know a lot of my peers also don't. Many people do finish high school. It's a career where you can teach yourself or have an informal, I don't know what to call this, an informal education, whatever it is. You don't have to have a CS degree to get into the field. It's a healthy field, and people are paying money for people who can do the work. And luckily, it's everything's on the internet. So if you have access to the internet, you have a lot of tools to learn. So education has very little, or formal education has very little to do with it. Necessary.
Yes.
Do you have a set number of applicants that you want to interview, or is it
So the question is, do we have a set number of applicants that we'll offer an interview to?
So no, basically what we do is we have a pretty rigorous assessment process based on the interviews, and then we start calling people just down the list, and we keep calling people until we have Cohort filled. And we'll typically do a lot of interviews. We'll kind of err on the side of interviewing more about it.
In the very next to the bookshelf. Yes. Yeah, so the question is, how certain were the applicants and students that software development is like what they wanted to do?
Girl, that's me. That's me. Like what you just described, that's totally me. I like to create. I enjoy the entire creative process. And that's from the UI all the way down to sometimes the interviews, normally not so much. But and I think that's why this is really a great fit for me, because I got to explore that a little bit deeper. And I think being hired as a full-time employee and working on an API team, and that's cool. I initially came to Ada wanting to be a front-end engineer. So now I'm like, I like APIs, but it kind of made me want to work my way back to the front end, and so I'm narrowing it down. So I think that's good to kind of like have a wide range, and then get to be able to get your hands on and see what feels best.
I think it's awesome to have like an open range. That's how I went about things. I remember the first time someone asked me front end or back end, I was like, I can't decide. I now realized, but I think a common thing for me was like problems kept reoccurring to me in my life that I was like, oh, I wish I could solve this, but I need to know how to program. And then finding that the one thing that I did find challenging was programming. And so that's why I know it's like my path.
And even to answer your question further, I guess I'm a software developer by trade, but really I consider myself a product owner that codes. So if that answers your question, and I think that's kind of like why I'm maybe an asset on my team, because I understand, like, I guess the importance and things that come from the business aspect of things, but I can kind of translate and make decisions from a coding and technical position as well.
Okay, great. I'm going to pull a question from Twitter. So students in the past, Ada students in the past have attended conferences. How did you support them to get there? We don't offer financial support for people to attend conferences. However, we are often contacted by people offering scholarships. I know we have at least one student in the back that's going to Montreal for a Python conference with all expenses paid. Not by us, but by the conference. So these opportunities do really exist. A lot of these conferences are really trying to get more women there, and they offer airfare, hotel, the conference, all of that stuff. So you just have to kind of seek out those opportunities, but they do exist, and there's a lot of I know another group of students is going down to the Ruby on Rails conference down in Bend, all paid for. So yeah, there are definitely lots of opportunities where people want to get you there. And actually, a lot of these things, you don't even have to be in our program to apply for those. So they just exist out there. So I would just check out the conferences that are going on, and they often have scholarships you can apply for.
So one way that we kind of support students in that, so in Cohort 1, one of the students wanted to go to a few different conferences, and all of the students being self-starters, as they are, she just put it up in an Indiegogo campaign. And, so like, I want to go to this conference, here's why, here's this, here's this, here's this, here's your rewards, which are like, postcards, and it was, she put together a campaign, and I mean, she raised money plenty fast and went to the conferences, and, like that, I mean, that was all her doing, but, Ada's happy to support students in doing those things, with, tweeting or whatever we can do to kind of like extend the scope. So, I mean, that was her entirely, but we did what we could.
Back to the timeline of when we'll be notifying and the interviews and all that, that's all on the website if you go to the Q&A part. So look there. It's going to know more than I do right now. Yes. Maybe you yeah. The question is, what makes for a successful application?
Sure. So, I mean, it's a, there's so much to look at. I mean, I think the things that we're looking for is the kind of these things that Christina has been describing. The self-starter, someone who's curious, someone who has a good grasp of logic and can kind of just I don't know, it's a little bit of mental gymnastics, but also just good communication. And there's kind of a lot of different things that we're looking for. What makes the an application itself good, it's kind of hard to say. There could be a wide range of good applications. I would say represent yourself and your passions as much as you can, in a realistic and sort of true way. And those are things that we pick up on. Those are things that really add a lot of value to a student who we know wants to do this, and this is their thing. They've been trying this and this and this, and it's those are the people that we're really
in the black sweater and then the white sweater and then the green shirt.
Seems that staff at 7% versus 531%. And you find that Ruby is setting people up well. Seems also that many people that are using are going.
So the question is, why Ruby in the classroom, and are people going to switch languages when they head into their internships?
I feel like I'm talking a lot. The reason we do Ruby, so I mean, there's a lot of languages that people could learn, and that there's a bunch that are going to be great choices to learn. I would say that the couple reasons for Ruby. Ruby is a really human-friendly language. It was created with that in mind. There's a bunch of quotes from the creator of the language. It's Ruby is created. It's computers should. I forget the quote. I'm going to try it. Anyway, the point is that he was had that in mind. It's this should be easy for humans, not computers, right? It's humans are the ones who have to suffer or whatever. Let's not care about computers so much. Make a language that's easier for humans to understand. So it's a really nice sort of entry-level language to just learn the basics of a programming language. And then that extends to many other languages easily. So Ruby and Python are very, very similar. After a year experience with Ruby, Python is pretty like, at that point you can probably pick it up, you know, in like a tenth of the time. I guess it kind of depends on where your strengths are and how much you know want to be learning about those, like the specifics of languages. But if you're like really dedicated to that, at that point you can probably pick up Python in, you know, a couple weeks, at least a nice basic usage of it. And then the other thing, kind of about the stats of Ruby versus Python, you know, Ruby is really common in web applications. I don't know what those statistics were specifically for. Python is used heavily in academia and science. Ruby is a really common language for web applications. And then the second part of your question, I'll actually let Christina answer.
Yeah, okay, so I did Ruby here at Ada, and then once we went to my internship, it was more on .NET, C# and Node. And one thing that I think that has remained true, or someone once told me that the problems are the same, the syntax is just different, and that's pretty much the case. And like you said, Ruby's a really great first language. So if the target audience is someone starting from 0 to ramp up to 100, I think that like literally Ruby's just the perfect place to start.
And just like to make a quick comment, as you know, someone who's been in the industry for a while and done jobs where I program in a number of different languages, like learning one language and then going to work in another is like a feature, not a bug. Like the more things you can be exposed to, the better, I think.
Okay, Alex.
Just so that you're on that, I realize that I always thought that the good is that when you JavaScript, and that's my original question is, are there any core skills that you're looking for in an application? Or better qualified
So the question is, are there any hard skills that we're looking for in applicants that are kind of like a prerequisite, like being good at design or being good at math?
There's none that we're looking for. That being said, if you have those, then that'll be a bonus. I think that most of the time, kind of thinking back to previous applications, the thing that we're really looking for or at is that there's usually some interesting story behind that. I can think of a couple applicants who, you know, yeah, maybe they have this very specific knowledge of this thing, but, you know, the coolest part of it is some accomplishment that they made in that thing. Not that they know it, but that they've used that that's part of their experience now. So, yeah, there's nothing we're looking for, but it's definitely fun.
Also, I think if it were a prerequisite like math, then that means you have a cohort full of everyone that was good at math, and that wouldn't necessarily contribute to a diverse class environment or experience. So I think the fact that it may be one person's good at math, another person does linguistics, someone has an education background, that like, because you take those skills and build off them to be, I guess, make programming as a whole better. So I think that a diverse candidates make a better program. So.
And I would say, like, it might not even be the hard skills that you would imagine would be useful. I would say at this point in time, with a lot of the professions that people are going to go into, like linguistics would be more valuable than math. To know those things. There's lots of things to know, you know, it's like there's lots of business problems to solve. You know, and math, some jobs that will be really important, but not necessarily important.
Okay.
In the previous cohorts, have you had any international applicants who succeeded in the cohort?
Yeah, so the question is, have we had any international applicants that have succeeded in getting into the program? Yes. And to be an applicant and to be enrolled into the program, you have to be eligible to work in the United States. We can't sponsor visas at this time, you know, no matter what kind of visa it is. But if you are eligible to work in the United States, you're eligible for our program. We'll discuss that. The question was, what if they're eligible to volunteer but not work? Okay, one from Twitter. What sort of flexibility is there with intern placement? Must the internship be with an ADA sponsoring company? So the model of our program and the way our program survives is sponsorship through companies. And the reason why companies sponsor ADA interns is because they believe in the mission, but also they're looking to get really awesome female developers on their team. So no, you cannot intern somewhere that's not a sponsoring company at this time.
You should really look at the internship as just more education. It's not somewhere that you're going to go work forever. It's just more of the classroom experience. So just like you can't go over to a different boot camp and learn, programming as part of ADA, you can't, go outside of the ADA educational experience.
One thing that first cohort students brought up to me was as they started their internships, they were maybe a little anxious about oh, are they going to hire me at the end of the internship? This is the only place I can be. But the actual reality was totally the opposite, in that many students got lots of different offers from the companies they entered with, as well as the companies that they didn't enter with. And some stayed at the companies they entered with, and others went to other companies, but they all found homes.
Okay, wait. Anybody else that hasn't asked a question yet that wants to ask a question? Okay.
The offers that the students were mostly Seattle-based companies that did offers.
We actually are contacted by recruiters all the time trying to poach our students. Oh, sorry. The question was, what was the question?
The offers that students got were primarily Seattle-based or the offers.
Okay, so were the offers that the graduates got all local Seattle companies, or were they outside? All of them got local offers. So we are contacted by recruiters that are trying to hire our students for either the Seattle area or outside. But yeah, everyone was offered and accepted a position local.
I know at least one student got offers from companies in LA and San Francisco, I believe, but she didn't take them. But she got offers. I don't know about if more did or not.
Yeah, back in the blue, yes. The question is, how technical is the technical assessment?
Not technical whatsoever. Last time, it's actually same for both cohorts, so I'm not going to repeat it. No, I don't know if we'll use it. Imagine it's an LSAT problem, which is you could go get a study book for law school, and it's going to be like a word problem, something like that. It's not based in programming at all. It's just a logic problem.
Okay, you haven't asked one yet, right? Or have you? Okay, yes? So the question is, do we know when the 4th cohort is going to start? September. Yep. And the internships will start in April of 2016. Okay, blue shirt. Yep. Should we let Dave answer this one? Oh, so the question is, okay, I don't know how to repeat that question. What sort of preparation is there for people to do technical interviews once they're in the real world?
Yeah, so this will be actually coming up really soon for the current cohort. We, for the last cohort, did kind of coaching and practice on technical interviews, as well as a lot of talking about what the job offer and negotiation process looks like in the tech world, which was a lot of fun. I'm sure we'll do something similar for this cohort. Also for the current cohort, for the internship placement interviews, which some involved some kind of technical questions. We did 2 practice questions some people also started for third. And those were mostly talking through kind of programming on a whiteboard type of problems, which is something that's kind of common. And many technical interviews are very different from company to company. That was kind of what we tried to practice. And I don't know, did you guys actually get technical interviews and many of the
Every interview I had was technical except for one, and with that week of preparation, I felt well prepared to answer those questions.
She's talking about that. So, you want to tell what you're talking about? What interviews you're talking about?
Oh, we have interviews for internships just to like practice. It's not necessarily that they're judging, or anything major at that moment. But it was good for me to understand what I can do in a technical interview, what I can't do, those kinds of things, since you've never experienced this before. And also, that was like the time that life advice was probably the most prominent thing for me at that point.
Great. Okay, question from Twitter. I'll direct this towards you. How much follow-up after the program do you provide with your graduates? Is there ongoing support?
Yeah, I'm meeting on it's like Friday to work on some stuff. But yeah, I still feel really connected to the people, the students, and just ADA as a whole. And I think that's one of the benefits as an ADA student is that you lead with the network and like an alumni association, and people that you can always reach out to because you actually do connect with people in the community. I think most of the people have either heard about ADA or like, oh, that's something cool. So there's kind of that benefit of it too.
So one cool thing was the graduates are actually TAs in the classroom for the current cohort, and they've all like paired up and they have mentor-mentee things going on too. So it's a great community, and I think a lot of the ADA graduates as well as the companies that they're now working at really want to give back. So there's a really great network, and I think being a graduate, like you're just tapped into it and will always be tapped into it. Yes. So the question is, do we provide any support for putting together a web developer resume, like after, or like? Oh, okay.
We don't have anything formally geared towards that, I don't think, but it's something that we would all love to help with.
I remember like when this is the first cohort, we got together and we like reviewed each other's resumes and like were able to help with one another, and then also I sent it to like Dave, and it's just like I think it's the network, so we have access to all the people that are either TAing and teaching and things like that to kind of get feedback on the resume stuff and get help as far as that.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm double different. So I have a question for the student alums and then also the instructors. So because this is a program for people without computer programming backgrounds, was there something with students that surprised you that programming or developing was different than you thought it was going to be? You're coming from an eccentric or a non-matching background. And then for the mentors, is there a sort of common misconception that you find in early sort of underripe ADA students, right? First weeks that you have to explain something about developing the job actually.
Okay, so the questions are, one, for the students and graduates, is programming what you expected it would be? Okay. And then for, misconceptions and surprises about programming. And then for the instructors, is there a what was the question?
Surprises, misconceptions. So,
Surprise misconceptions about people who are coming into the program, and okay.
So people normally know what the job actually is going to look like.
Okay.
One thing I think I could say about my cohort was that I think we're all pretty much high achievers, and so have kind of been used to being good at things. And programming is really hard. Like it's abstract. It's a different way of thinking. So it was. I think one of the most challenging things was to program and hack our brains and understand if this was hard and be a little bit less harsh on ourselves and give ourselves time to pick it up, learn it, and build some muscle memory. So that, yeah, that I feel like that's one of the biggest challenges actually, is just to kind of like know that this is something that's really hard and that it's going to take time to learn and it's not going to happen overnight for sure.
From my perspective, it's the exact same thing. Basically, you know, I can see that it's like believing in yourself and just like knowing that like you're doing it right, even though it's hard. You're gonna make mistakes like constantly, like every minute you're gonna make a mistake, and it's really hard on you to just constantly people to start feeling bad about themselves. So from my perspective, you know, I talk to all the students a lot, and I can see every individual secretly believing that they're the worst. You know, and nobody knows that just everyone feels that way, and that's just like totally normal. I kind of have this mantra of like, you're doing great. I say that, I try and say that like constantly. And you know, everyone just like during the first cohort, everyone thought I would just fold it, and they're like, he doesn't know what he's talking about, like I'm doing terribly. But then I think once they graduated, they kind of like saw that they were doing great, and it's just super hard. Yeah. Not to say that you won't succeed.
Yes, Rachel. What? Yes. Do you want to come stand by the microphone so those? Okay. We have Rachel, who is a current ADA student, coming up to add on to an answer.
Hi, I'm Rachel. The question was like misconceptions about starting the program, and for me, like the amount of communication you do in programming is a lot different than what I thought. I kind of have this fantasy, my introverted fantasy of like me and my computer solving the problems, and it's like this job takes more communication than any job I've ever had in the past. And if you're not on board with that, get on board.
Thank you.
Yeah, being really collaborative is, I think, the #1 aspect of doing really well in ADA, and like speaking up for yourself.
Okay, another question from Twitter. I want to be a product manager. I've managed one project, and I'd be more effective if I knew how to code. Is this a good route?
I would say, you know, in that scenario, probably if you want to be a project manager, you're probably better off going to a shorter boot camp. You know, you probably don't need to dedicate a full year of your life. That's going to be like the hardest year of your life. To improve on that job. I think that there's the other ways to improve, and I think there's other good options out there.
Yeah, I think people that maybe want to go through ADA definitely are going to have to commit to software development or development at least, you know, for like, at least, I don't want to say mastering that, but getting good at that. And if you're just looking for maybe good project management, maybe it's a big commitment. Maybe this isn't the right thing.
Because then after this, you'd have to take like the product management or the project management certificate. So yeah. Okay, any other questions from the audience? Anybody that hasn't asked yet, and then I'll get to you? No? Oh, okay, blue shirt.
So my question is about the application. Part of the application are the documents, and my question is, will we collect once the recommendation has been submitted, or shall we follow up with our recommendation?
So the question is, on this application, we do require references, and will you receive some sort of like confirmation that the letter has been submitted, or should you follow up on your own? You should follow up on your own.
Yeah, if it gets late enough, we'll certainly follow up with you if your references haven't, you know, responded, and then we would let you know at some point. But it won't be like an automated process. That would be more of an individual basis where it needs to be done.
Anyone else in the audience? Yes. So the question is, do we have a set limit of the number of students that we'll take from the Seattle area? No. We love Seattle. Okay, let me just check Twitter. Okay, I think we've covered most of the major topics. Anything else? Yes, go for it.
So I just have a question about work-life balance. You guys have talked about how hard the area is that diversity. I don't want anyone to feel pressured to disclose too much, but has anyone in the program in past cohorts managed to do it with family?
Oh, okay. So the question is about work-life balance and how time-consuming this program is, and if anybody in the program has a family and is able to like keep their family while they do this program. So it's either Ada or your family. Ada becomes your family. Just kidding. Yes, we have family people.
There's one student with family, but I think her youngest is 16. So that's a totally different ball game than having like a 16-month-old. Yeah, I would.
Instructors.
Yeah, I have a 6-month-old, and I'm feeling pretty worn down, and my job is like half as difficult. So, but I mean, that is something that we would like to strive for. You know, and that would certainly be like the biggest personal challenge for the individual. And I would, you know, I think everyone would love to see that happen. It hasn't happened yet, not for any particular reason. So it's, yeah, I don't really know what to say there. It would be a big challenge, but I mean, that would be a fantastic goal, or that would be a fantastic scenario if we could do that.
Yes. The question is, do people drop out of the program? Yes.
Because it's so hard, or because it's life happens?
I would say a combination. Yes.
What is the rate?
The question is, what's the retention rate?
Sure. So the first cohort, 16 started and 15 finished. This cohort, 24 started, and we now have 22. And I expect all of 22 to graduate.
Yes. So the question is, how much homework is there, nightly, weekly, etc.?
I'm actually going to say that.
I definitely remember at the start of the program, we had much more reading. And then towards group project time, it was just like, how much did you love your project? And then, like, definitely weekends were dedicated to my projects, but I got to pick my balances and like what I wanted to follow down the rabbit hole and what I just didn't need to do.
And I am not a student, but I know what a lot of the students are up to. And so I know, like, this past weekend, we have a bunch back there that we're actually at a hackathon all weekend, just because that's what they want to do with their time now. So that's not homework, but it's homework.
Actual assigned homework, like reading or a specific assignment to turn in, is certainly less than 1 hour a week on average, probably. But as Kayla said, you can expect to be doing plenty of work at home.
It's fun. It's fun. It's so fun, actually.
Okay, we'll take a couple more. Yep.
I was wondering, around the same topic, what kind of activities do students, or have you two at least participated in during your free time while you've been working with them? Have you had time to go with your friends or pursue some other hobbies, like singing or something?
So the question is, what do ADA students do with their free time if they have any?
For me, it feels like a blur. I don't know. I guess you might be better.
I'm definitely still having the best like time in my life. We like sometimes I can just be at home for the entire weekend, like recouping, and then sometimes I'm like, yes, this weekend I'm going on a hike, and then I'm gonna play with my dog and go to the park. So I still have such a great balance. It's not totally gone.
We have one current student who's like in the ladies choir and is a home brewer and like does all these, and I'm just like, just hearing about it makes me exhausted. So there are people that still live very active have very active social lives during the program.
but I still hang out with my classmates. That's really bad.
Yes. The question is, on top of the 5 days that we give, are there holidays on top of that? Yes, I found out yesterday that Monday is a holiday, and the first thing I did was run out to the class and be like, guys, Monday's a holiday. And they're like, okay, we're working on our project. Please leave us alone. So yes, that's all in, it's not on the website. It's in a student handbook, but there's probably 7 holidays plus throughout the program, the classroom part. There are 3 week-long breaks. One falls around 4th of July, one falls around Thanksgiving, and one falls around, what's the one in September? Labor Day.
You get a spring break.
No, you got a spring break.
Oh, yeah. Maybe you can ask for one.
But also, when you're in your internship, you know, they're treating you as, you know, basically an employee, so you'll get whatever holidays they have as well. Yes.
And a follow-up question to that. The 2 students, how many really work on things with it?
The question is, of the students, how did they work on projects during their breaks? For fun or not for fun?
Yeah, I did a lot of the projects that I would work on outside ADA were just to kind of help reinforce some of the knowledge of students, but of course they were geared towards more in a fun way. So yeah, there's still a little bit of bandwidth to kind of work on things outside of ADA.
We had a winter break project, and then the other times I don't think I really did. I really took my time, just like this one project is what I'm going to focus my time with. And even on our Christmas break project, I was still skiing the entire time. So.
Oh, no problem. Yes.
Yeah, after the internship, and as you Christina had an easier transition into working with ethics, but then other people, the other admins, had trouble coping up with this. Did they have colleagues who were already computer science? How did they deal with it? Was it difficult? How was the quality of life? Was it easy, difficult? Did it feel low?
So the question is about transitioning from being an intern at a company to being a full-time employee, and how people dealt with that transition, and if it was a good feeling or a bad feeling. You would all know better than that than I would on that. What did your friends say?
I think like for the people that I know that are working at places where they did intern, they've been ramping up pretty nicely. I think that's sometimes the hardest part is like learning, intro base and things like that. I think for the most part, I think ADA prepares you for that to kind of learn because you're always working on a new project. So yeah, I feel like they're pretty supportive in that.
So they don't think that they're behind this year.
Well, see, most of the people that took the time and are working at different places, like they wanted to like make sure that they found a great fit for them. So they're working at companies that were like they chose or took the time to really invest in and feel comfortable there.
Have you seen a change in the quality of your life compared to your previous job in marketing and finance? Did you feel that you're progressing in your life after you
For sure.
Wait, I'm going to repeat the question. Sorry. So the question is, do you feel the quality of your life is better now that you are a programmer versus, being in marketing before?
Well, definitely. I think that I have a skill set, so a new skill definitely enhances quality of life. And then I feel like there's also an infinite amount of room to go and move forward from here. So definitely would say quality of life is increased.
While you were making the decision to join was one of the motivation factors that right now in Seattle or in university there's so much for programming the scope of programming to progress as a programmer. Was that one of the motivation factors?
I think so, but definitely not the number one. I think motivator for me. I think it was more so that this was an entirely new world of creating that I hadn't really been exposed to previously. So I feel like I was kind of in discovery mode, and so that was like the biggest motivator. Like, wow, this is something I can do. This is something that no one's told told me about before. This is this new thing that I want to learn to about.
Yes. So the question is, did any of the graduates go into a startup with the skills they got? Oh, start a startup.
None of the students have started startups at this point, although I definitely foresee it.
We have a couple that are working at startups. Yes.
During the internship phase of the program, is there any special classroom time for students to connect with instructors with other teams, or is that just a meeting?
So the question is, during the internship portion of the program, is there structured classroom time to bring everybody back together?
Yeah. Basically, the internship is 35 hours a week. Then you have 5 hours a week after that. And the structure of that is pretty loose. It kind of depends on what's going on at the time. But, you know, so we'll have the students kind of work on some things that maybe we want. We'll have them work on their own projects or contribute to open source or something like that. But it's a time where everyone's back in the classroom. And then TAing as well. I mean, there's going to be smaller groups there, but generally there would be, you know, 3 or 4 back in at any given time.
Okay, one more question from Twitter. How is student performance evaluated?
Yeah, so that's a tricky one. So we have things like quizzes, and you know, we use Canvas to like track assignments and stuff like that. It's tricky because it's such a broad field that you know, if somebody wants to be a front-end developer opposed to a back-end developer, there's a pretty big difference in what we should expect of them. So a lot of, you know, what people are doing is kind of based on what they want to do. Yeah, we have the quizzes just to kind of have like just kind of a mark of like, you should have these skills. These are skills that you should have by now. And then if people are below those, then we work with them individually.
Okay, anything else from the audience? Okay, thank you all so much for being here. If you have questions you know, are thought of now and or think of after this, just feel free to email the contact email that you can access through the website. But we're keeping the website really up to date with anything that happens, and the Q&A section, you know, as we think of more things or see more questions that a lot of people are asking, we're always putting them up there, so just keep checking back. But yeah, we encourage you all to apply, and thank you so much for being here.
So I had a question that seems too weird to now that like you're planning like 2 different events, are you going to allow people who's like, you know, just like maybe like